Well, with the presidential race in its last 2 weeks, both candidates are stepping up their pitches to voters. President Trump with a jam-packed schedule heading to Pennsylvania for a rally this evening, while Joe Biden stays home preparing for Thursday's debate as high-profile surrogates hit the campaign trail. Let's bring in our panel. Charlie Hurt is an opinion editor at the Washington and he's a Fox News contributor, and Leslie Marshall is also a Fox News contributor. Charlie, the day after the Hunter Biden email story broke, welcome to you both. The day after the Hunter Biden email story broke,
Good to be with you,
Hunter Biden put a lid on his activities for the day, and now he's called a lid for the entire week until the debate on Thursday. It doesn't seem, Charlie, to be as much about coronavirus anymore.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's a very strange strategy, and I think in any normal sort of political season, this would be viewed as some kind of strange political suicide. It's as you point out, it's not about COVID anymore. It seems to be more about treating Joe Biden as this kind of Fabergé egg who, if you let him out in the public, might say something incredibly stupid. There's a long history of where he has done that. But I think in a weird way, it raises the stakes for him for the debate, whereas with President Trump, and this cuts both ways as well, President Trump is out there all the time, and people are hearing from him all the time, and so the stakes for him are a little bit lower at a debate like what we're going to have on Thursday. But what I love about it is it's two very divergent strategies, and I like clear lines in life, especially in politics.
Yeah, I want to get your take on this too, Leslie, because he says, the president's out there all the time. Let's put this on the screen. Yesterday, he was in Prescott, in Tucson, Arizona. Today, Erie, Pennsylvania. Tomorrow, he's in North Carolina. And Joe Biden, look, the whole thing is he's got a lid on this. It's crunch time, Leslie, right? I mean, remember the criticism Hillary Clinton got in 2016 for not going to some of the battleground states? What do you make of this strategy?
I make that Joe Biden is, and Charlie, I love you, but you couldn't be more wrong about my party and my candidate. Joe Biden has been out there. Joe Biden is taking a few days to prepare for the debate on Thursday, which I think is essential, quite frankly. This is going to be the last debate. This is it before the election. And speaking of, most of the country has already made up their mind and millions of people have already voted. So and there are two things here. Yes, they're very different races. Joe Biden doesn't want crowds of people with a COVID-19 pandemic. He wants people wearing masks. He wants people social distancing. I'm not saying the president doesn't, but when you look at his crowds, I'm not seeing a lot of masks, and I'm certainly not seeing social distancing. And also, when President Trump was in the hospital and when he was being quarantined because of COVID, Joe Biden was out there on the trail. Joe Biden was on the trail yesterday. He's taking a few days to prepare. And I think knowledge is power. And if you're prepared for a debate, you have the upper hand. You have to be prepared. I haven't seen great preparedness in all the debates, quite frankly, on both sides. So I think Joe Biden's doing the right thing.
Speaking of the debate, Charlie, the mute button, what do you think?
I think that this entire campaign will become known as the mute button election. I think it's a terrible idea, the idea that you're going to give a journalist an opportunity to mute candidates. We believe in free speech, not free silence. I think it's a very alarming trend in the fact that people in the press would go along with it. And this comes along immediately after we have a huge scandal that erupts that raises all kinds of serious questions about one of the candidates. And the media all get together and decide to censor it. This is insane. This is nuts. And it doesn't say as much about Joe Biden. It says a lot about Joe Biden, or rather, I should say, it raises a lot of questions about Joe Biden. It doesn't necessarily answer them all. It raises a lot of questions about Joe Biden, but this says a lot about the media. The fact that the media in America today, the political media in America today, would rather silence things, would rather get behind a mute button rather than a megaphone is a really terrifying turn in America today.
Isn't, Leslie, it's one of those things where you think even if you talk about the mute button, even if it's just hearing an Al Gore heavy sigh, isn't it important for the viewers to hear everything and not be censored, right? I mean, and let them make up their own mind. Your last thought, Leslie.
Well, I think America on both sides of the aisle, including politicians, made up their own mind about the last presidential debate, which was it was a hot mess. What the Americans need to hear is not just and not see is just a performance or grown men acting like petulant children. They need to hear policy. And so I'm in agreement with the mic, quite frankly, because, I mean, unless you can say, sit down and shut up, and you're really not going to the president of the United States and the former vice president, these moderators tried their best, but these individuals just wanted to attack and interrupt each other. And that doesn't benefit anybody in the debate process, the moderator, the individuals debating, and certainly the people watching, the American public, the voters.
A lot of people out there saying, let us hear everything. We'll make up our own minds about that. Leslie Marshall, Washington Times, Charlie Hurt. We forgot to get that plug in at the beginning. Thank you both. We appreciate it.
Quite all right.
Thank you,
Trace.